Good morning, beautiful women, gentlemen. Is everyone hearing me and seeing everything okay? Awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, Diana, so much for that introduction. Again, my name is Rasheal Charles. I am a mental health therapist and a registered social worker. I've been a registered social worker for oh goodness, about 5 years now, but been working in the mental health field for solely for 2 years, but in human services for over 15 years. So today I just wanted to thank Diana, the host, before we get started, for inviting me on this very special project and very special journey. And I hold it as a passion project and a passion phrase just because that's how I like to view myself, as strong. And I believe that we're all here because we're journeying through a little bit of a tunnel called COVID-19, and we need as much strength as we can get. So the presentation today is talking about staying well, and it's going to be a little bit of a topic about mental health. And I was just reflecting this week, somebody had made mention about mental health, and I said it's really not a social trend. It's actually something that we all go through. So just come along with me. I'm sure there will be time at the end for us to ask questions, not at the end of this presentation, but I believe at the end of the conference. So the Staying Well Project, this is definitely something that I developed, and I wanted to explain a little bit about mental health and why it's important. Staying well and your mental health, it takes work. I believe that you're the expert in your own life. For some of us who have ascribed to a specific faith, mine is Christianity. I definitely think that God is the expert in my life, but I want us to really think about that you're with yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so you know best. And you definitely know the ins and outs of your own specific journey. And there's nothing more liberating than being committed to your own journey and to your own mental health. And if you perhaps get off track, I often tell my patients, if you get off track for any reason at all, don't feel as if all is lost. All it means is that you need to just change your mindset and to try to reset that mindset again. And emotional wellness and mental health are interchangeable terms, and they are just as important as any other wellness initiatives, such as managing your overall health. One of the things that I believe that sometimes keeps us back from being able to address our own mental health is that we actually don't view it as important as managing your blood sugar or managing your blood pressure, or thinking as it would be any other health concern that we have to do. So we want to really encourage you today to take your emotional wellness and your mental health, you hear those terms throughout my presentation, as just as seriously as the food that you eat and the sleep that you're supposed to be getting. Is everybody good with that? Is that our commitment today? All right. So owning your own journey. Theodore Roosevelt actually came up with this terminology, and he said, comparison is the thief of joy. And when I heard this quote, I'm like, oh my goodness, this is so true. How many times do we think about the person who's sitting beside us or walking beside us or working alongside of us, and we start to make these comparisons. And comparisons will steal your joy away from the goals that you actually have set out for your own self, for your own life, the things that you want to accomplish. So you need to stay focused on what it is that you would like to accomplish for yourself. You need to own your own journey. So in this Staying Well project, there are some specific requirements to deal with your emotional and your mental health. And what the specific requirements is that you need to have insight. So you need to ensure that you're using the right perspective. And that is really important to managing your emotional wellness. We also need to have a really good understanding. So we need to acknowledge that we have competing interests. And as women, we have several different roles. Some of us are mothers, some of us are caregivers, some of us, even as single people, there are competing interests that we've got going on. We've got work, we've got church, we've got school, we've got play. There are so many different things. And until we take stock of all these different competing interests, it would actually be a little bit contrived if we don't manage what's going on for us well. And as a part of this project, we need an implementation. So we need to have a direction, or we need to be able to execute our plan. And in executing our plan, these are some tools and strategies that we can actually be able to have. All right, so for emotional wellness, gaining insight to your own mental health, it helps us to put things into perspective. So the National Institute of Health reports that emotional wellness or mental health is the ability to successfully handle life stresses and to adapt to change. So how many people struggle with change? I struggle with change. Let me tell you a little bit of a story. I remember when I was working at a youth shelter, and this was back in, I think, 2010. And I remember, driving to work in my little car, parking the car, and like just being stuck and thinking, you know what, as soon as I walk through those doors, it is going to be mayhem. And I sat there, and I remember one of the children, one of the youth, was like peering outside of the window. And when I got myself all the way together, I came out of the car and I walked in. They're like, "What are you doing in there? Are you praying?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I actually am, because this is going to be a day." And I actually realized that I was taking these steps because I really struggled with transition from moving from one thing to another. And it became actually really clear that I needed to take a moment, I needed to pray, and I needed to reset what was going on. So, I would be okay when I left home. And as soon as I got into work, I would start to feel a little bit nervous. My heart rate would go up because I just didn't know what to expect. So when we think about emotional wellness, we think about the ability to successfully adapt to change. And when we successfully do that, there are some things that we need to do. So I talked about taking that time, reflecting about what was going on. And if we don't create time and space in our life to be able to do some reflection, we're going to be lost. We also need to think about unlearning and relearning new language. This private logic that most women and everyone actually has on a day-to-day basis, sometimes it is negative self-talk. And it happens sometimes out of our awareness. And we need to be able to slow down, understand, hear this private logic that we're making sense of, and relearn different kinds of language. We also need to be honest. As I was preparing for this presentation, I said, okay, what does it mean to be honest? We could get all these definitions. And I oftentimes explain this to my patients. I say to them that you're with yourself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And you know what? I'm not your feel-good rainbows and unicorn type of therapist. Bad things will happen. And if we believe that bad things will not happen or challenging times will not happen in our life, we will never be able to overcome, learn skills to be able to navigate through that process. It is very, very important for you to acknowledge that you're feeling sad. It is very, very important for you to acknowledge that you might be having some challenging times. And this is what being honest is about. We don't want you to stay there. We want you to acknowledge it, be non-judgmental towards yourself, and be able to move forward. All right, this is my absolute favorite tool in the whole world. I get really excited about it, as you can tell on my face. So this is a feelings wheel. And if you have your pens out, some of you do, some of you don't. If you don't, grab a pen really quickly. I like to use this exercise. Now, when we go to grade school, a lot of us just learn the words in the middle. So we know what happy, surprised, bad, sad, angry, and fearful looks like, what it feels like. And these are very common words. If you say, "Are you happy?" to a 6-year-old, they would be able to acknowledge or deny whether or not they are happy. And the same thing if you ask them if they were sad. These are really common words. But there are also words that are a little blah. I actually think that we should have changed the colors in the middle and made them like a peach or like a white, because they really just get overused in our day-to-day life. I want you to look at the outer 2 circles. These words are much more descriptive about feelings and emotions that we might experience throughout the day. The more language that we have to describe what is actually going on for us is the better that we are going to be able to acknowledge how to be able to get through those emotions. So I just want you to do a quick little exercise. I want you to write down the top 3 emotions that you were feeling trying to log into this Zoom session today. Top 3 emotions that you're experiencing logging into this Zoom session today. Okay, I'm going to give you about 15 seconds. I'm going to give you my 3 words about how my day at work went yesterday. So I felt inquisitive, I felt a bit fragile, and I felt interested. Those words are really descriptive about how my emotions were at work. And so it's really important for us to be able to relearn language. And how we are able to relearn this language is that if we make it a habit. We talked about creating time and space in your life to be able to do some reflection. This is exactly how we do it. We come up with words that we're not particularly comfortable with, or words that we don't use on a daily basis, on how it is that we are feeling or the emotions that we have. This is how we are able to take care of our mental health and our emotional wellness. All right. So another project requirement in our Staying Well project is the management of stressors. What competing interests cause the most demands on our time? So we need to be able to prioritize our competing interests. We need to make a list about what's really important. And having an organized approach will allow us some strategies to be able to manage our physiological response to stress. The mind and the body are very much connected. The reason why I say that is, let's say, for instance, you have a fear of flying. When you get to the airport, your heart rate actually might go up. And so it's a physiological response to stress. That's anxiety. And so oftentimes we're not even aware that, you know what, the demands around our time, demands around our lives, things that we need to accomplish, things that we need to do, to learn, are causing stress in our body. So Harvard University states that there's 3 areas that are required to manage our life successfully. We need to understand the relaxation response. So I described to you a few things from my life, and I want you to just to kind of take some time and think about things that might stress you out. Now, I'm sure your heart rate's going up, or you got some muscle tension going on, maybe a little bit of dry mouth. That's what's happening. And so doing some deep breathing, resetting your body's response to stress is something that's really important. So how about we take a deep breath together? I want you to go in through the nose, hold for a couple of seconds, and out through the mouth. Now, you might get a little bit of tingling feeling. We would have to do it several times for us to actually get the full effect. But this is your body's response to say that you need to be calm. And so if we do that correctly, we're actually teaching our body on how to kind of come back down off of the clouds that's making our heart rate go really high up so that we can actually feel relaxed. Physical activity is really important for the management of stress, and having a really good support system as well. All right. So some of the competing interests, I want you to take a little bit a look at this. There's things that are just outside of our control. And this is kind of like understanding how I can prioritize. I show this to a lot of the patients that I work with, and I oftentimes look at it for myself. So there are 101 things that are outside of my control. Should I be spending my time concerned about those things, having it take up brain space, taking away from the time that I need to try to better myself? Or should I be thinking about the things that I can control, the things that my words, my efforts, actions, mistakes, and my behavior? Those are things that I can be concerned over and change them. So it's really important for us to try to understand on how we can prioritize what's happening. If there's things that are stressing you or worrying you, these are some of the things that would be really important. When we think about prioritizing and really understanding some of those things, having a visualization technique, so using your mind's eye to be able to support you and support on how you can bring yourself back down outside of the clouds. So talking to yourself is really important. We talked about learning words to describe how we're feeling, and talking to yourself is actually really important. So just, you know what, this presentation will be sent out as well. And so one of the things that I use to kind of bring myself back down to earth, if I'm concerned or worried about anything, or if I'm feeling really sad or disillusioned or upset, I need to talk to myself. I am present, I am here, and I am in control. These are some of the things that I use to redirect myself when I'm feeling maybe under the weather, or I feel like my emotional wellness is being compromised. I am strong, I am healthy, I am whole. That is helping us to build some focus. And then I am happy and I am worthy. What you tell yourself is what you can be and you can accomplish. So moving on, we've got another project requirement is looking at our tools and our strategies, because you're your own best guide. So Dr. Aaron T. Beck, he's the one who developed cognitive behavioral therapy. He encourages us to examine how we view the world, all right? When I have a specific experience, or when you have a specific experience, you're going to experience the world in that way. So let's say, for instance, I had a happy childhood, nothing went wrong, nobody in my immediate family passed away, I am living happy and free. That is how I'm going to view the world. If I viewed the world where there was trauma, there was sadness, there was things that were outside of my control, I'm going to view the world in that way. And those things are called our core beliefs. So what I believe about myself or about my world and my environment, that is how I'm going to navigate myself through this world. But it's not without saying that we can't make any corrections and we can't change from how we experience the world. So here is another quick little example on how core beliefs helps us to understand what's going on for us, and how it helps us to see things differently. So we have a situation, let's say for instance, you want to make new friends, okay? Because that's always a difficult task. And you're thinking about meeting a new person and you think about asking them to go out for a Starbucks or, to join you at Tim Hortons. If you're thinking that you're not worthy, then the consequence would be that you probably wouldn't ask them. All right. So you have a thought in your mind. And if your belief is that you're not worthy, like nobody likes me, or I don't think that I would get along with that person, automatically that would stop you from acting on that thing. Now, let's say, for instance, you have the situation where, again, you're wanting to ask somebody out for coffee and you think that you are worthy. You're a great catch. You're really bubbly. You're probably going to ask them and it's probably going to go well. All right. And so this is how our core beliefs are linked to what we do. So thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are all linked. If they're positive thoughts, I am going to feel positively about that thing, and then I am going to behave in a positive way. So again, staying well, we have a mindset that we can change. Now, it's not to say that, I may not have a particular story that's a little bit different, or I may not have a negative thought that comes into mind, but you always have the ability to change the course of your thoughts. So I want you to think about some of the negative core beliefs that you might hold about yourself. It could be like, I'm abnormal, I'm boring, I'm worthless. And then I want you to try to find some evidence that that is not true, because most times it's not true. It's the things that we kind of tell ourselves, and it's the things that have shaped our world, this core belief. And we can change that if we acknowledge it, and if we have the language to relearn and start telling ourselves in our own little private logic that we can do things differently. All right, are you still with me, folks? Okay, so toolbox and strategies, these things are really, really important. I really love to have things that I've developed, things that will work for me when I'm at my lowest point. Everybody has low points. COVID-19, I know it's been at the top of everybody's brain, has really changed our life. I'm going to use a very, small example. I do not like lines in the grocery store. And I don't know how many times I went to the grocery store and I had to wait outside with a mask on. I was not happy. It took a really long time just to go and get like some eggs and butter. And so it can cause some stress. Sometimes standing in the grocery line, you're getting annoyed, you have other things to do, other places to go. That's not the time to necessarily be thinking about how you want to change your mindset. You want to think about changing your mindset when you're calm, you're cool, and you're collected. So practicing and learning some of these strategies and building your toolbox are really important. Building a daily practice. So here are some things that I wanted to share with you. When I do treatment with some patients, we kind of go over some of these things, and I'm just going to quickly explain them. Having a journal. So remember the 3 little things that I got you to write down, the emotions? They're great. And it can actually help you to reflect on what's going on for you. So some people don't like journaling because it's kind of like writing a letter to yourself that nobody's going to read. Sometimes it's a little bit pointless. So having a little notebook from the dollar store, writing some things down, such as the 3 emotions, the top 3 emotions that you have for the day. So, you know what, let's say at the end of the week, you can kind of go back and say, okay, on Monday, I was feeling disillusioned, frustrated, and excited. And on Tuesday, I was feeling elated, astonished, and surprised. And on Wednesday, the list goes on. So having a journal is actually a really great tool and strategy to monitor your own mental health, okay? Your emotional wellness. Creating a timetable or an agenda for yourself is also really important. Don't give room for idleness. It's actually not really good for us because our brains just kind of go wherever. I'm not saying jam pack and make a list of, or make something to do for every minute of the day, but creating a routine that you can have available for yourself that is going to be promoting healthiness and your mental health in a positive way. So creating a structure, a routine. 5:45, you get up and you work out. At 8 o'clock, you got to be at work. After work, you're coming home and you're creating some time for you to just do some deep breathing. Things like that is really going to help promote this healthiness and this healthy way of living that you need. So an emotional safety plan, we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And we've got a self-care box. Now, I love to do this with my youth. A self-care box is really important. So at times when you might be feeling stressed or not stressed and you just want to improve your mental health, having a self-care box is really important. I didn't bring mine today, but I'll tell you what's in my self-care box. My self-care box has a stress ball. It has my favorite tea. It has a book that I've been reading for the last 4 years called The Happiness Project. It has some cue cards with some scripture verses in it. It has dark chocolate in there. I think there's some popcorn, some chewing gum, and actually my favorite movie, Pride and Prejudice. So it has its own little place. And when I'm feeling like I need to rejuvenate myself, I go to my self-care box. So that is actually a way that helps me to unwind from the day and really not try to ruminate in the feelings that I might that might be holding me back. So when we talked about the competing interests, we go on autopilot. There's things that happens to us outside of our awareness, and we're just so busy, and then things just kind of pile up. This is a great way to try to unwind. So if there's books or podcasts that you want to watch, that's actually really important. Having a safe place. So having a place routinely in your home. My safe place was in my car right before I got to work so I could do my deep breathing. Having a healthy diet is really, really important. When we eat junk food, we probably don't feel good. So when we feed our brains, our minds, our bodies well, we're able to kind of cope with some of the life stressors that we do have. Having a good sleep hygiene is also really important. How many people know that you need to be shutting off your phones, electronics 1 to 3 hours before you go to bed? It's really important. The blue signals that are emitted from laptops, cell phones, Kindle books, anything like that, it actually sends signals to our brains that tells us that we're supposed to stay awake. So if you have an Android phone, I believe it is the blue light filter. If you have an iPhone, it's called nighttime mode. Those things are really, really important for your mental health. You need good rest for you to be able to manage the stress that comes with daily life. We did diaphragmatic breathing. It's just a fancy term for deep breathing. We want to reset the physiological response to stress. And how we do that, we do some deep breathing so that we can kind of come at a baseline that is easy for our bodies to recognize that it's going to be okay. Just think about how many times you've seen maybe something happening and then all of a sudden your heart rate goes up or you get muscle tension. That is us and our brains connecting what we see to how we feel. And so there are so many different times in our lives where we see certain things and it causes that anxiety response to happen. We actually have control over that. Many of us don't believe that we do, but if we breathe in the right way, it is actually telling our bodies that it's okay to be relaxed. So having a really good support system, some people are like, oh, I don't have any friends. Listen, there are many ways to create friends. Joining a group, Facebook has lots of different groups. I know we're in the state of social isolating ourselves, but there are many people here today. We've got, I think, over 55 women that are joined today. Send a private message to somebody. You can create a friend. Having a really good support system to talk about some things that are going on in your life, a prayer partner, attending church is actually really good for our mental health. Limit and boundaries to social media. When we look at everyone, there's hardly any time at all that somebody will post things like, I'm super sad today, or I didn't get the job that I wanted. Most times we're seeing messages where people are supporting themselves, trying to celebrate themselves, talking about their accomplishments and their successes. So these things are actually really important for us to recognize that it only creates a one-sided view about what is actually going on in someone's life. So if we limit social media, it's for the best. We talked a little bit about having an exercise routine. It sends out positive hormones throughout our body, and so that we can manage stress well. Mindfulness practices. I often use the shoulda, coulda, woulda. The shoulda, coulda, woulda is going to put you in a box. Oh, I should do this. I wish I could do that. And I must do something. Placing unrealistic expectations on ourselves is not helpful. So mindfulness practice is just keeping us in the here and now. It's anxiety provoking to think about the laundry list of things that we need to do. So one day at a time, one foot in front of the other is going to keep our project, our wellness project intact. Being grateful for things that are around you adds to your happiness, adds to your satisfaction, because you're looking for things to be grateful for and not thinking about the things that are going to keep you down. It's okay to think about things that are not so happy, but sometimes it can turn into like a spiral where you can't get yourself out. So staying emotionally well is looking for things that you are grateful for. Volunteering, giving back of your time gives you a sense of purpose, and feeding your spirituality is actually really, really important. So some people, I have a friend, spirituality for her is camping, getting out in nature, being able to breathe the fresh air. Those things are really important. All right, so here we are. The emotional safety plan is actually included in your conference package. And it's actually really, really a handy tool for us to create when we are calm. So when we're in a space that we're not agitated or upset or feeling sad, pull out your emotional safety plan. If you're feeling good today after the conference, I invite you to fill this out. But we can quickly go through the elements of this. Creating an action plan beforehand is a clever way to manage your emotions. When you're faced with times that you may not feel your best, creating a safety plan can make difficult times a bit easier for you to manage. So you want to talk about your current emotional status. We go back to the feelings wheel. Again, this is really, really important for us to understand. The feelings wheel, write down your emotions. And how will you know what has kind of triggered you? And then what has actually been in your toolbox? And the reasons why you want to change your mood and emotions. Your lifelines is your support system. So, as I sum up here, folks, staying well is about being informed. We learned a lot about how the physiological response to stress is actually controlled with deep breathing. Education is paramount. Do your own research, understand what's going on, own your journey, being honest with yourself, understanding that the emotions are there and happy emotions bring us further to where we want to be. Sad emotions should be acknowledged without any judgment, and being kind to yourself. Just think about when you were 5 years old and some of the private logic statements that you might have. You want to make sure that you deliver those messages in a kind enough way to your 5-year-old self. Be gentle, be kind. Folks, it was lovely being with you today. I hope that your Staying Well project is just beginning, and that you will continue maintaining your mental health and your emotional wellness. God bless you, and looking forward to the rest of the conference.